Today I want to give you 3 words to help you approach Scripture. These are sort of the 3 steps or the 3 movements we make as we read Scripture. And those words, the first word is observation. And that's simply asking the question, what does it say? So when you look at a section of Scripture, you simply look at it at face value and ask, what does it say? Simple enough. And then the second word, the second move, is interpretation. So then we ask the question, what does it mean? And this is sort of getting back to that word historical particularity that we talked about last video, that it was written in a specific time and place by an author living in specific circumstances. And so with interpretation, we're trying to get at what did the author mean by this when he first wrote it, and how did the first hearers hear it? And then the third move is application. And that's the question, what am I supposed to do with it, or what does it mean for me? So we go observation first, then we move to interpretation, and only then do we move to application. Now, why is that important? It's important because a lot of us are tempted to when we open Scripture, to jump straight to application. That's straight to asking, what is this? I'm reading Scripture, what does it mean for me today? How can I take these words and apply it straight to my life? Which is a good practice to do, but it misses the depth and richness of Scripture. Because before it was ever written to you or to me, the original authors wrote it to a group of people trying to follow and pursue God in their particular time. A quick example of this is Philippians 4:13. It's a pretty popular scripture. A lot of athletes, I think, have this written on shoes and things like that for motivation. And the scripture is something to the effect of, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's pretty motivational, right? If I was to jump straight to application, this could be a motivational speech for me. I might say, hey, I can climb out Mount Everest because I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Or I can become a professional basketball player because I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. But when we jump straight to application, we miss what the text is really about. Because when we observe and we interpret, we see that it's actually much more than that. And there's a greater depth there as well. So what this is from Philippians, and that's a letter that Paul wrote to a church that he had planted, and he's thanking them for their support. And just like we support church planters now, he was a church planter, and he's thanking them for support. But he says this, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or living in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. So this text from Paul is not a motivational speech, right? It's him addressing contentment. That there's been times in his life when he's been hungry. There's been times in his life when he's been well fed. There's been times when things in life have been good and when things have been bad. And we all know that, right? We all know what that feels like. And he says, I've learned to be content in all those circumstances because of my relationship with Christ. And if we jump straight to application, we miss all of that and we just find a scripture that's motivational for us. And so, as you approach Scripture, the tip here is remember, move 1 is simply observe. Move 2 is interpret. What did it mean for the first hearers? And then we ask, what does it mean for me today? Have a good one.